Well, joining us now is the Sun's deputy political editor, Ryan Sabey. Ryan, a very good morning to you. The papers all take slightly different perspectives here. So the Times is saying Braverman's fate in balance. The Daily Telegraph, Sunak faces calls to sack Braverman. The Daily Mail, however, says come for Suella and you come for us all. A mixture of opinions also from members of Parliament. Do you think she has to go?
I think it'll come down to what Rishi Sunak thinks when he wakes up this morning. He'll certainly be waking up with a headache, having mulled over this yesterday when she obviously defied Downing Street by pressing ahead with this article. He's got a big decision to make, whether he does it today, whether he makes that decision today, or he waits for over the weekend when those protests happen. Does he get rid of her before then? And don't forget, next Wednesday, we have that big judgment on Rwanda, that flagship policy of the government to deport migrants for processing abroad is made by the Supreme Court. So does he wait until then? But the trouble, if he waits until then, there's basically a 5 or 6 day vacuum. You know, he's got to fill that. And it feels like the public want him to make a decision and quick.
How much more can he take, Ryan? Because she made that controversial speech in the United States where she talked about multiculturalism failing. She's talked about homelessness being a lifestyle choice, and now she's accused the Metropolitan Police of bias. And meanwhile, she has brought into question the PM's authority by completely ignoring Number 10's directions on this article. She's making him look weak, isn't she?
That's the trouble. It's one thing after another, and if he lets her stay on in at the Home Office, there will surely be another thing, you know, just around the corner. So this week should have been a big week for the government. It was a big week. We had the King's speech, and Keir Starmer was under real pressure over that resignation. But this has been turned into the Suella Braverman show yet again. And will this prove the final straw for the Prime Minister? But again, it shows how strong he is or how weak he is. So if he does get rid of her, he'll look like, you know, there'll be some political heat for a day or two, and he'll try and move on pretty quickly. If he doesn't get rid of her, there'll be accusations from the opposition, whether it's in the dispatch box in the House of Commons or interviews with the likes of yourself. And every time they'll say he's weak, weak, weak.
The parliamentary party seems very divided. It depends, I suppose, which side of the party you're on. When you look at people like Bob Neill, who said her position was untenable, but at the same time, Lee Anderson, many people around the country like Lee Anderson. He's a straight shooter. He says exactly what he thinks. He dismissed the criticism, saying that anyone who thinks her comments are outrageous needs to get out more. Isn't there a real issue for Rishi Sunak here, that if he does fire her, he will fragment and split the party?
This is the trouble. It will show whether Rishi Sunak at the moment is politically strong or weak. As you say, on the one side, you've got the likes of Bob Neill, and on the other side, you've probably got 20 or 30 people on that wing of the party who are very, very desperate for Suella Braverman to say. And if she does go, you just create a martyr of her, and also all those backbenchers, those allies of her, will just cause headache after headache after headache for the Prime Minister. And if he's not going to call that general election until October, November next year, he's going to create a problem for the next year. And he's going to have to be looking around. They'll be laying political traps for him all the time for him to fall into. And they'll just cause his premiership, the rest of his premiership before that election, it'll just be a headache all the way.
Ryan, let me just put to you what Tom has got in touch with us to say. I think telling the way it is better than not saying something to offend anyone. She may be wrong at times, but at least it's straight to the point. I mean, that's the point being made by her allies, isn't it? That she is the one here trying to give the government some backbone. And if Rishi Sunak is too scared to say it, then she can say it for him.
I think the trouble is, that's exactly right. But I think the trouble is, by her talking about the multicultural speech in America, she talked about the homelessness this week, you alienate people on the other side. So whereas Rishi Sunak might think that this plays well with some voters, maybe those voters who backed Rishi Sunak or the Conservatives for the first time in 2019, that's absolutely fine. But on the other hand, you've got those blue wall seats, those other side of the Conservative Party, who are absolutely furious. So you can have a straight talker, but if it's going to cause you headache after headache after headache and actually alienate quite a lot of your constituency and those people who are going to vote for you, Rishi Sunak's trying to build a broad coalition. You only get into government and have that majority if you do build those broad coalitions. By alienating all those people, he's putting all of that at risk.
Just in terms of where we are, it's Friday. Tomorrow is Armistice Day. We then have, obviously, a Remembrance Sunday on Sunday. Just in terms of the timing, when could Rishi Sunak act? Because clearly it couldn't be today or tomorrow or probably Sunday. Suella Braverman also knows that. What is she actually up to? What is her political objective here?
I think she's thinking of the long term. What she's actually been saying over the last few weeks, she actually really believes. She's got this strategy in her mind of setting out her stall. This is almost like a leadership pitch for the coming year. Rishi Sunak, if the polls are true and the Conservatives are 20 points behind, it's going to be very difficult to win that election. So she is just setting out that position very early to try and sort of get the first wave of support, and then when there is a leadership election called, that she'll be in a really good position and she'll have that wing of the party. And all this plays well, don't forget, with those voters, the people who actually vote in the Tory leadership contest, the members. So she's playing to all these different audiences to try and swell her position and to put in a really strong position. But in terms of when Rishi Sunak will act, it'd be really difficult to do it today. Would you really want to do it ahead of those protests tomorrow and over the weekend? And as I say, you've got that Rwanda decision. And really, you want to know what the outcome of that Rwanda decision is before you make a decision on Suella Braverman's fate.
Ryan Sabey, thanks very much indeed.